Right.
Hello, you're listening to Don't Listen to This podcast, all about 1,001 albums to listen to before you die. I'm your host, Ewan Gleadow, still deaf in one ear, burnt my face off, got a cold. Still trying to get away with wearing the same shirt for the past 3 episodes as well. I don't know if anybody's noticed that. But I am joined by Robbie McNicol of Forgetting the Future. Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm great, man. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure, man. Honestly, it's fantastic. It's always good to get a musician that I actually know of on the show, where it's like, I've had musicians on in the past where it's like, I know of you, but I've not listened to your work yet. It's like,
Yeah.
but I've known your work for like, I remember covering it for Any Volume and Narc Magazine and stuff way back when I was like a student, which is, makes me feel old. I mean, I'm only 22, but I feel ancient. Like, 40
Oh, I was
pieces.
the same, man. What age are you now?
I'm 22, I'm 23 on Christmas Day.
Oh, well, I'm 23 in June. So when I hit 20, I was like, oh, God, this is all downhill from here, isn't it?
We're getting on a bit. Like,
Yeah,
that's,
we're getting there. Halfway to 40, man.
Oh, don't say that. Jesus Christ, we are actually. Oh my God. Yeah, but speaking of being halfway to 40, we're going to talk about an album that came out about 20 years ago,
Yeah.
American Idiot. But before we get into American Idiot and all that shit, what have you been listening to recently? Have you been listening to much music other than your own stuff?
Yeah, man. Well, we're currently in the recording process, so I've been listening to kind of like everything, trying to nab ideas and stuff like that. How have I been listening to a lot of Kid Capici?
Ooh.
Those guys are pretty
Yeah.
sick. And a lot of the Hara, we played it with a band called the Hara from, I think they're Manchester, back in April. And we supported them on their Scotland leg of the tour, and they're really sick. So I've been listening to all these kind of different. Another band I've been really is the Hives. I've gotten into the Hives again.
You got to have a Hive.
Nuts, man.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they're crazy. So all that kind of like alternative rock, kind of dabbling into a bit.
Perfect. I mean, it's ideal because we are kind of talking about alternate rock today, and I've just realised that I made these notes a bit ago and I still haven't finished them. But that's all right. We're going to power on through.
Wait, man, wing it.
Oh, it'll be fine. So, key notes for American Idiot before we dive into this big insert that I've got to read from the 1,001 Albums book. American Idiot came out in 2004, released by Green Day, obviously. Billy Joe Armstrong, Mike Dirnt, Trey Cool, and I guess, Rob Cavallo on piano as well. The genres it's been listed under are pop punk, alternative rock, and rock opera. Yeah, fair enough. I've no complaints about that. But I suppose I'll read this to you and see what you think, because this is the insert that was written for the book, and that's sort of 4 paragraphs on why it should be in there, essentially. Sometimes it's a lot longer. This one's quite short, actually. Some strange comparisons in it. Few would have bet on Green Day making the hard rock smash of the 21st century. The previous album sold a mere 500,000 at home, leaving singer-guitarist Billy Joe Armstrong's maturing songwriting unheralded by all but the faithful. To the public at large, they were coasting in the afterglow of 1994's Dizbuster Dookie. I don't know what Dizbuster means, but they seem quite keen.
That sounds mental.
It sounds brilliant, but I'm quite scared to Google it, so I'm just going to leave it. Undeterred, Armstrong, drummer Trey Cool, and bassist Mike Dirnt conceived a more of the same follow-up, Cigarettes and Valentines, only for the tapes to go astray, obliging them to start again. Allegedly, anyway, producer Rob Cavallo says the songs were simply mediocre. Perseverance paid off to the tune of transatlantic number ones and multi-million sales with American Idiot. To the delight of furrowed-browed fans, it had a concept, albeit one indebted to the Who's Quadrophenia. But where Quadrophenia had spiritual flab, this had killer tunes. Rarely considered of any album containing 2 9-minute edits. Am I echoing in your microphone?
You might be. Do you want me to mute? You want me to mute?
No, it's all right. We'll power on. It's all right.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I'm not very good with iMovie, so it's fine. It'll be fine. People listening to this,
I'm terrible with technology. Yeah,
I'm still trying to get one of the episodes. Anyway, where was I? Rarely can it be said of any album containing two 9-minute epics that not a second is wasted. Homecoming even finds a niche for Cool's deadpan rock and roll girlfriend, one of the fruits of their poor cigarettes and Valentine rebuilding. American Idiot, Holiday, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, Wake Me Up When September Ends, and Jesus of Suburbia were the hits, but every hammering hook and soaring chorus is a winner. The album even survives a mashup. Find the amusing American Edit online with musicality intact. There was no need for the cover's grenade. As iconic as it is, this music was bound to explode. That's a lot of information, and we'll get into a lot of it. But the American Edit I've never heard of, and I didn't bother searching it out to go and listen to it because it sounds dreadful. But I can't imagine any of American Idiot's going to sound better than the album itself. Um, what
Yeah, I
I
don't think I've ever
remember,
heard of.
yeah, it's a strange one. But I remember when I pitched this to you, I kind of said, "What album do you want to do?" And you came back with American Idiot. Was there any reason why American Idiot out of all those albums?
I think it's just it's tricky because obviously a band like Green Day, they've got so many big albums, and maybe not necessarily to the people that were around when Green Day blew up would think that American Idiot is their like kind of profound album, but I think because of my generation, I was obviously born in 2000. That was the big Green Day album to me. Um, just because of the kind of time I was in, and then later on when I was like 16, I got into my pop punk phase and all that, and then I was listening to all their older stuff and all that kind of stuff. But I think it was just the music videos, like seeing the massive American Idiot music video on TV, um, all that kind of stuff, and then obviously you've got all the other tracks like Jesus of Suburbia. Um, I think it was just quite a. It was definitely fitting to the 2000s, but it's got a sort of nostalgia about it. I think that's why I kind of chose it because it still can work in 2022, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. This is the first time I've properly listened all the way through to American Idiot, which was as shocking as I thought it would be. You know, everybody's heard American Idiot, everybody's heard Green Day, but I'd never actually sat down and actually actively listened to it the whole way through. And it was like I was under the impression it would be as like sort of that cheesy nostalgia for the early 2000s. Nah, it's really solid, which
Yeah,
shocked me because there's so many other bands of the time that are kind of stuck in that one hit wonder phase. Obviously, it helps that Green Day had a lot of hits, but there's so many that I can think of where it's like you've got that one song that you end a set with when you're going to a gig, and that's it, really.
yeah,
Nothing else has lasted. With American Idiot, half of them were singles, and they absolutely exploded.
yeah.
Um,
I think it American Idiot compared to their other stuff, especially prior to the album, I think it's got more of well, some of them have more of an indie rock kind of theme than like a total three-piece punk. I think it sounds more like instead of like a fast punk band, it sounds more of like a big rock band.
yeah, oh, definitely.
Yeah,
It's if you told me this was punk, I would have gone, no,
yeah,
absolutely not. It's
yeah,
very it almost hits on garage rock and sort of that
yeah,
branch
for
of the
sure.
genre where it's like it's obviously quite politically charged because of the time frame it finds itself in, but at the heart of it, it is really just quite big. I suppose that's where it gets its pop through genre type stuff.
Yeah,
But as far as the tracks themselves go, I mean, the title track's probably the most obvious, isn't it? American Idiot. It's I don't know. I mean, it's a huge, huge track, but I guess is that part of it? Is part of Green Day, especially with stuff like Dookie. The big appeal of it is how sort of obvious an image it is. The hand grenade on the front, the American Idiot, what it conjures with the music video, like you said, it's massive. It's kind of hard to escape the appeal of it to some degree.
yeah. I think obviously back when it came out, obviously it was on MTV every day. It's on the radio. They're the biggest band in the world anyway, so you're gonna end up seeing it. Um, I think it's strange for me because when I listened to it, I was a lot younger the first time. So when I was listening to it, I was just like, oh, this is a good song. And I didn't even know what really music was. I was just kind of bopping around. But now I'm older and um, I'm like a musician myself, I can dissect it a bit more. And I never even really thought about why it was called American Idiot, what the meaning behind it was, but it's almost like a self protest against. It's like on like the opposite of patriarchy in a way, in a punk way, kind of
Yeah.
picking apart an American Idiot and stuff like that. Which I only figured out not long ago, to be honest. When I was listening to it again, I was like, I have never really thought about what he's talking about here. But I think Billy Joel's lyrics, he does have like a. It's almost like an Arctic Monkeys thing in a way, like how Alex Turner paints a picture and picks apart, like, obviously if you take like a society, kind of picks it apart in the song, makes fun of it a bit, um, glorifies some parts. It's kind of the same writing kind of style, but obviously totally different sound and totally different music. But I think that's why it appealed to me at the time, because it was quite kind of ballsy, swinging around as well.
It definitely, yeah. I wish I could say the same, but my music when I was a kid was like the Who's and Scouting for Girls, and then I didn't
Oh,
leave that until about
right, man. I just got
they were great. I mean,
the now 74 CDs and stuff like that. Get Lady Gaga on.
we used to do school discos at our primary school. And we had two CDs. We had now that's what I call like 73 or something, which
Yeah.
had my Mr. Ray on it. And the only other CD we had was the best of Phil Collins. So it was either you listen to the Who's and Scouting for Girls, or you got Susudio on. Neither one's really good for primary school children. It was
Yeah.
like such a whiplash. But it was like halfway through the DJ would flip that, like those portable CD players, like the
Yeah,
flip,
yeah.
taps the top open, pulls out. It's like best of Phil Collins side 2. Grim. But there was no American Idiot, there was
Brutal.
Green Day. Oh, it was horrifying. I still remember the horror shows, but it's like you said, it was on MTV all the time. It's got a very Beastie Boys appeal to it, where it's always on. Like I always remember seeing. I mean, it was a couple of years after it had released, but it was always on Fight for Your Right to Party, and it was the same for American Idiot. It was always on the telly. It was always on like even like the offshoots of the MTV channel, where it was like they're still about for some reason. Those channels that are like countdown shows, but all the countdowns are like the best of 1983 with
Yeah.
like and it's just so weird that people still watch those. But it's a nice way to discover some strange songs. Um, but yeah, American Idiot definitely has a lot of depth to it, a lot of real meaning to it, a lot of aggression at times, which I do think is why it gets that punk reputation. It's got that attitude to it, that mentality, and I suppose for me it boils down to Jesus of Suburbia, which is why I mentioned garage rock earlier. Which again, it feels like a garage rock song. It feels like that essential garage rock style, which is a bit strange. Not exactly like grouped in with garage rock. This is like a punk record, like in quotation marks for people that are listening. I just forgot that we also do audio for this podcast. Yeah, it's very it's very different from what people would think of punk. Like when I think of punk, I think like the Clash, Sex Pistols, that sort of genre. I don't think of Billy Joel rattling on about being an American Idiot, which I swear down, I'm sure that one song is in the Jimmy Neutron movie, but I can't remember if it is or not.
It's quite
But
fitting as well, isn't it?
it was really good, yeah. I remember that when I was a kid. I watched it that much, I scratched the DVD, but haven't seen it since. But it's, as the insert kind of said, it is a very bold album, not just because of what it's singing about, but what it's doing technically and musically. You've got two 9-minute tracks on here, which is unheard of. Queen's
Yeah.
record had a go at them for doing one that was 6 minutes, and that wasn't even that good. So to do two 9-minute songs, that's unbelievable. That's really pushing the boundaries, and I suppose that's the reaction they needed, considering the not the critical reception, but the commercial success that they'd had. Essentially, it was Dookie, and then they did Insomniac, they did Nimrod and Warning, but nothing really took off as well as it did for Dookie.
Yeah.
And for American Idiot to do all of that, it kind of feels like an explosion out of nowhere. Nobody was really expecting such a blast, and 10 years after Dookie released is what happened with American Idiot.
Yeah, I think especially because American Idiot's a little bit. Well, they're a little bit older in that one, really, aren't they? Like back in Nimrod and Dookie, they would have been kind of prime punk era kind of young guns, but then they were a bit older for that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I suppose it's just while we're on the subject of them getting a bit older, I've got to ask about Father of All. I've got to ask what you thought of that.
Yeah, well, it's tricky because I hadn't listened to to that one as much. I think it's strange because with Green Day, I've always had the like specific favorites on like albums as well. So like say take like American Idiot.
Yeah.
It's always been like American Idiot, Jesus Suburbia, Holiday Boulevard, Broken Dreams, What's Her Name, and then it's almost been like you kind of forget about the other ones until you go back
Yeah.
and listen to it as a full one.
It's
But
it's got a nice depth to it that kind of a lot of albums miss out on.
yeah, for sure. Especially how they kind of released the deluxe, and it's got Holiday that
Oh
like
yeah.
the end of the track of Holiday goes into Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Because I'd never heard that before.
It's
Before I listened,
delightful.
like I listen to albums and stuff like that, and you don't even realize it unless you listen to it as an album, like on a CD. Because if you were to listen to it, if that album came out now, and you're listening to Holiday, and then at the end of it you heard this like chugga 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 chugga, you'd be like, what? Why have they put that in there? And it wouldn't make sense unless you listen to them back to back.
Yeah. That's
So
the
it's
thing.
guys.
It's especially. Hmm?
Oh, no, sorry, carry on, man.
No, it's all right. Honestly, it's this hearing thing. I suppose really when you talk about music and do podcasting, you should have two ears available. But I was just saying, it's like just to carry on what you were on about there. It's like for me, it was I used to think I was I was into music, but then you kind of realize you got to listen to the album as well. Like there's a whole new art to the actual listening of an album, which sounds fucking silly to say out loud because it's obvious, but it's like
Yeah,
you listen to that bridge from Holiday to Boulevard of Broken Dreams, and it's just such a quality that I guess people know that Green Day has, but they wouldn't get that just from listening to the singles. Like if you're listening to like a best of compilation, you're not going to get the same effect.
yeah,
And I think that's what shocked me most is I'd kind of written off Green Day as like, oh, they're a singles band, there's not really any depth to their album work. And it's like, there really is. And I think that's what shocked me the most because kind of, it's like Green Day and Nickelback are kind of spoken badly up in some circles at this point where it's kind of they're mocked for being extremely popular and doing some decent work. And I guess that influence or sort of now their standing has changed, especially after Father of All, which was I thought it was okay. I think I'm one of the like 7 people that actually didn't mind it.
yeah. I think it's like it must be to do with their like obviously because they are so successful. When a band hits that size, it almost feels corporate.
Yeah, it's the
Yeah,
apex, isn't it? Kind of
yeah,
with American Idiot, especially they've hit that peak. It's essentially that I think it's like their most commercially successful album. I wish I'd done more notes for this because it probably is considering how big it is.
yeah.
Um, yeah, it's pretty much an absolute barnstormer. 16 million copies worldwide, #1 in 18 countries, 6-time platinum. That's not bad. It's all right. Pretty good innings.
Nudge.
Not too shabby.
I'll take that.
I'll take that. You know what? I suppose it's it's okay. That's a
Yeah,
starting point for them to move on.
yeah,
Um, it's kind of telling that their next album came like what 5 years later. It's like you could coast off American Idiot for so long that it's
yeah.
doing it. They did 21st Century Breakdown, which is
Exactly. I think it shows as well the gap between them because not that 21st Century Breakdown and all that wasn't a good album, but it didn't have the kind of same feel. Obviously, again,
yeah.
they are older, but they've definitely thought, yeah, let's make some money off of this bad boy. Like, you know,
I mean,
as they should have,
it's not a bad shout.
Exactly, yeah.
It's so that's the thing. It's kind of I guess obviously being able to make that much money and sell that many records for one album, there is a clear sign that there is quality on it, and uh, there is, and I think that's what people forget about Green Day is that they were quality album musicians. I mean, something like "Give Me Novocaine" is like surprisingly good, like as an acoustic track. You know, when you think of Green Day, you think, oh yeah, the title track of American Idiot, oh yeah, Dookie. You don't think like really mellow, well thought lyrics on an acoustic track like "Give Me Novocaine," which is just
Yeah,
such a left of field piece. It's unbelievable. Um, and like the genre says, well, it's kind of part of rock opera in there, kind of building it up and then knocking it down with something that really does go against what they were known for at the time. Kind of, you know, the post punk aesthetic, the garage rock vibe. It's not really an acoustic area.
yeah. I think I was kind of shocked as well when I heard the likes of Warning, because that is quite an acoustic. It's almost pop in a way. Um, and listening to that album, you're like, this is different, especially when you've listened to Basket Case and all that kind of the punk that was going on there, because you still had like No Effects and all that kind of stuff as well. Um, but they definitely pulled it off really well because they had a good um diversity about it. Because I was listening to Nimrod not long ago, and I heard I can't remember what track it is, but it's like a there's like a few tracks on Nimrods that like you've got like Wake Me Up, or no, is it not Wake Me Up? It's Time Your Life, and all that kind of stuff, and it's quite softer. And then there was like a proper heavy metal screamy kind of tune, and I was like, where did that come from? It's just nuts.
Yeah. They've got a nice range to them, which again, there's only so many times I can say it, I didn't expect. Like, it's such a strangely broad band. Yeah.
Especially a punk band, you wouldn't
But
see it
I've got to
coming.
ask, yeah, no. Why would a punk band do an acoustic layover in the final few tracks of their best selling album? It is
Yeah,
really remarkable. I guess to a degree as well, it does give the band a break from that image they had at the past, which is essentially, you know, they were coasting off of the success of an album they'd done 10 years ago. I guess, you know, as far as the legacy of Green Day's American Idiot is concerned, it kind of deflates that concept that Dookie was the best thing they could manage because obviously American Idiot kind of blows that out of the water now. I know they're both on this list. I think Dookie is, but you know, whenever anybody says, "Oh, what Green Day songs like," they're never going to come up with something from Dookie. I mean, they might do, but the chances are
yeah.
it's going to be American
They're
Idiot
kind of
or
into
someone
it
like
more.
Welcome to yeah.
Yeah, I
It's
think one of the things I found quite interesting about Green Day is their um the skits. They had a lot of skits into their maybe not so much these days because obviously it's more radio commercial now that you have to kind of adhere to. But there's because I was talking to my producer Ken that I was telling you about that worked with him on Nimrod and
yes,
Warning.
yeah,
And they in LA, I think they were working in Oakland in the studios, and they actually hired dominatrix to come in, and there was they got the studio assistant, so like the kind of guy that'll kind of plug everything for the producer and the engineer, and they locked him in a vocal booth with the dominatrix and started whipping him, and you can hear it. I think I can't remember what song it is, but it's on Nimrod. You should definitely have a listen out for that one, and it's just kind of like imagine putting that on sort of now, like it'd just be mayhem, you know.
never never thought I'd have to give Nimrod another listen through to hear the screams of a man being whipped by a dominatrix, but
Oh, it's brilliant, man. It's my favorite part.
it's that's that post punk attitude. That's kind of what I would expect from Green Day, but not from American Idiot. Where it's like,
Yeah,
I guess it's kind of the, you know, we've become so used to American Idiot, you know, the heart hand grenade type thing, that it's kind of, it's still a very impactful image. I think it's a great album cover, but I think people are just so used to seeing it. It's kind of overexposed almost in culture, which is, you know, it happens to a couple albums, happens to a couple songs where it's that ingrained in popular culture that it just kind of ebbs away a little bit. But for those that were around at the time and got to hear it before that happened, they can say, "Oh, we were there before it got, you know, slaughtered by the
yeah,
mainstream." But it's hard
definitely.
to say that about Green Day. considering they sold that many albums.
Yeah, it's tricky because it is one of those album covers that you walk into like you go abroad and you walk into a t-shirt shop and it's on the t-shirt, like like especially the
Yeah.
same with like Joy Division or like the Rolling Stones logo. And I think especially with I've actually found recently that I've actually come across a handful of people that don't know who Green Day are, and I'm
Ooh.
totally mind blown about it. And I'm like, there's no way that that's getting filtered out now because I'm only 22 and there's people like 17, 16, and I'll be like at work and I'll be like, yeah, Green Day, and they'll be like, who's Green Day? And I'll be like, get out. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be serious. But they probably recognise the logo.
Yeah, it's the logo. We're old.
Yeah, we're getting there, man. I think it might be it. I think it might be it for us. It's terrible.
Yeah, we're actually that's it. Curtains for us. But it's like you said, I'm amazed that American Idiot is at the same time one of the biggest albums ever made, but it also is something that's been completely forgotten by people that are about 5 years younger than us. That terrifies me.
Yeah, because it's not even a big gap. It's just a few years.
I don't know what that says about its legacy, though. I guess less people are listening to Green Day than they were 5 years ago, granted, but it's kind of, American Idiot is a lot smarter than I guess people give it credit for, because obviously, like I said, it's kind of, Nickelback would devolve eventually into that meme about the graph, but for Green Day, they've never... It's a
one of my favorites.
It's a remnant of history. But for Green Day, it never felt like that. There's nothing on here that would suggest it should be like thrown into obscurity or something that the next generation shouldn't latch onto. Especially if you look at older artists have lasted longer than Green Day in sort of the cultural sphere without doing more work than Green Day. It's really strange.
Yeah, I think it's kind of slightly. I think it's almost kind of like relapsing again, coming in to the kind of sound in the charts, because you've got like the likes of like Willow Parks, and Machine Gun Kelly that are trying to relic that sound again. I think so, but then again, they are like older. Well, they're not older, but like they are the kind of age that would have grown up listening to Green Day and stuff like that, and now they release that kind of stuff, and then like the 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds now are like, oh, this is cool, I've never heard this before. Strange.
It's the cycle. It's the cycle again.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of like when people listen to like I don't know Yard Act and Wet Leg, they're thinking like, oh, this is fantastic, but I guarantee there'll be somebody a generation up from us going, this is just like this that we used to listen to, and it's like it's always a cycle.
Exactly.
All roads lead to the Beatles, but it's I kind of want to ask, because obviously when I have musicians on the show, it's nice to see why they've picked a certain album. What is it about Green Day for you as a musician that kind of cements their legacy? Is there any influence there, or?
I think with Green Day on American Idiot, I think it's just the tightness of the sound. Because I mean, the Green Day weren't really a harmony band with vocals, but obviously they've added all that stuff in and made it not in they've made it not pop kind of, but like aesthetically pleasing. And I think it's just the wall of sound that is on that album. It is just, and it's not just punk, and it's not just rock, or it's not just indie rock. It does have loads of different elements. So I think it's, to me, when I heard it, it just had everything I needed to hear, because I've always been into punk, I've always been in indie rock, I've always been in indie, even acoustic stuff and all that kind of stuff, and even heavier stuff to an extent as well. And I think it had everything that I kind of needed, and it was still not too much in a boundary by itself, if that makes sense. Just nice and
it does.
Like specific at the same time.
Yeah, like what I've found with this podcast so far is that I don't actually know anything about music production or the technical aspects of it. I pretend to for the sake of reviews and stuff, but actually, this is just a blank canvas inside of my brain. Um, so I get what you mean by the wall of sound. It's kind of like, there is no way you can escape that guitar on the title track. There is no way you can escape it on, Jesus of Suburbia. There's no way you can escape the layering of some of the tracks, and it's really impressive because, again, people write off Green Day as kind of just, it's Green Day. Green Day are quite smart at the technical side of it, really. A lot of, when we think of pop punk and alternative rock, it's quite thrashy, it's quite heavy, it's quite not amateurish, but it also kind of sounds a bit thrown together to create
raw.
a rebellious aesthetic. Like, yeah, exactly. American Idiot's very, very sleek. It's very crisp and it's very well maintained.
Yeah, very polished.
Very polished, yeah. But that's something Green Day always did. Green Day were always quite a polished band, and they were quite, for better or worse, managed to sort of streamline their sound as something that was also not just radio friendly, but really, really clean and clear. And you don't really get that much with pop punk. You don't really, you never think the first words come to mind when you think of pop punk is, oh, it's really clean, that it's really nice and friendly. That
it's usually dirt, But I think Billy Joel's, to me, his voice has always been like that, because obviously back then, in the punk phase, and you've got the likes of NoFX and like all these kind of 3-piece punk bands. It's all quite gritty vocals to an extent, kind of raw guitar sounds with their guitar straps at their bloody kneecaps. So it's quite it's like rushed, raw, and like exciting. But with Billy Joel, it's always been very accurate.
Yeah,
which is kind of nice.
Oh, it's lovely. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like Billy Joe Armstrong has a voice that doesn't match his face. Like when I heard him,
not at all.
What? Man, it's like hearing Scott Walker on his last few albums. It's like that's not the guy that did the 70s.
It's weird, isn't it?
It's a real dissonance, and I think that really does benefit the band because, like you said, it helps them stand out pretty much. Where it's, if you think about pop punk, and I think the reason I wrote them off is because everybody at my secondary school was obsessed, and I mean like absolutely obsessed with My Chemical Romance and Nine Inch Nails, and stuff, like Girl Brides, and I just thought, I want nothing to do with that. I've got 30 songs in my favorite playlist. That's me sorted for the next few years. And it was like, I'm not listening to anything that isn't pulp now. Goodbye. And it's
right.
You miss out on music when you've just got Different Class Belting out, which is the best album of all time, as this podcast has proven. But stuff like the Black Parade and even the Buzzcocks with Love Bites to a certain extent, where it's, granted I've not listened to Love Bites, but I've listened to Buzzcocks before. I don't think anybody's not listened to Buzzcocks before, but especially the former with My Chemical Romance, kind of, I don't know, it just got a bad rap from people that I didn't like listening to it all the time. It's like, oh good, you like this, do you? And you like Green Day as well. I'll stay clear of that one. And then, eventually, years down the line, when you've simmered down and sort of grown your brain out a bit, you realise that Green Day is fantastic.
Yeah, I think back in high school, it got a very emo rap. Especially with My Chemical Romance, and I think what kind of, back then it was like, if you're emo, you got to be full emo, or listen to like Block Party and that, which is like more kind of like, I think it's like with culture, especially in Britain, you get the likes of the Stone Roses and Oasis and all that, and it was more like usually people that were like into watching football and kind of just that kind of stick. But then My Chemical Romance was more like emo alternative. And I think back then, like, oh, you got to paint your nails black if you want to listen to My Chemical Romance and stuff like that. But it's totally changed in a nice way now, because I think everyone's kind of realised, especially people that have gone back and listened to it, like, that's a bloody fucking good album. And it's a cool aesthetic as well.
Yeah, it is. It's
but a lot of people like you kind of stay in their own lane.
Yeah, it was especially at secondary school and a bit of college as well. It was kind of like in one corner you got the Strongbow dark fruits and bucket hats. On the other side you've got like Jägermeister and Doc Martens. It's nice to
Yeah,
see them crash
exactly.
together a little bit. But I think that's the big thing about Green Day is that they're quite the unifying band. They are both at the same time something that was seen as not grungy but like emo, very emo, but at the same time very commercially viable, very clean, very well
Yeah,
produced, and it's such a scattershot of those feelings that it's kind of surprising almost that it still lasts to this day because the people that were championing it because it had a heart grenade on the front of it going, oh my god, that's so edgy, they've carried the torch a little bit for us to then pick it up later on and go, this is actually quite good.
yeah,
It's kind of come full circle, hasn't it, where it spent a couple of years in the dark period with My Chemical Romance and 21 Pilots,
yeah.
and now it's back in the light of the
And they're
real world. It's like I wasn't part of either group, so it's like I've only just bought a pair of Doc Martens, so it's kind of like I'm tilting towards that side again. But
yeah,
never, I was never keen on Oasis, never keen on like the other side of it either. So I just kind of like had to be in the tug of war. It's like, oh, I like REM, but I kind of like this as well. It's like that's
yeah. I
nowhere to
was
be.
the same,
There's
man.
no
I was
debate
growing up. Because I grew up playing football, but then
there. Yeah,
when I was like 15, 16, I started oh well, then I was kind of totally engulfed with surfing and skateboarding and stuff like that. But I still liked football because I did play that sometimes. So I was always in between, and it was pretty confusing. You know,
it's a difficult place to be because it's kind of like the stereotypes we're on about here are fact. We have lived those. We've seen it happen firsthand, and it's like it's unavoidable to a degree. But I think it is kind of it separates the shit from the good almost. That's the earliest albums are always the
yeah,
most important ones. I still
definitely.
remember listening to like Mika and the Hoosiers on the way to school, and like Robbie
Yeah,
Williams. Like that's not my cup of tea now, but it's such a formative time. Yeah, exactly. It's
definitely.
I
I think
suppose that
for probably like for you as well, being in like because being in like a more populated area, because you're North England, aren't you?
yeah. The hellhole that
Yeah.
is Northeast England.
Well, yeah. Well, you guys probably had more extremes and kind of community influences because there's probably a lot more people that were kind of into that. But for kind of me up here, because we're at the top of Scotland, on like the most northerly town in the UK, so it was like just farmers and like your schoolmates, but no one really knew what to dress like or what to, you know what I mean? Like it's strange. And you go down to
Yeah.
Glasgow, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because it's kind of especially now, like the past couple of years with Sam Fender and stuff, where it's Northern culture's imploded in on itself, where you've got people down in London wearing Newcastle United kids going, "Oh yeah, we love the Geordies," having never been to
Yeah,
Newcastle. And it's kind of that cultural assimilation, but on a different level for Green Day, where Green Day were universal. That's not them peddling like wherever they're from in America, which I didn't research because I forgot to. But they're not peddling a specific like colloquial part of the world. They are
yeah,
a completely universal band. It's just their look managed to fit in everywhere. It was kind of a slow burning culture shock, and I don't think we've had anything quite like that for a while. Whether or not Sam Fender kind of replicates that solely through selling Newcastle United T-shirts, I have no idea. But it's kind of telling that like for a good 10 years, people were like thick black nails, really heavy goth stomper boots,
yeah,
jet black hair type thing, and that image will never escape me because it was like
yeah.
that was prevalent
Especially
in
some of
uni
the,
as well.
oh man, it was. I remember like the guitarist in my band when I first met him in maths class in high school. He had like he was listening to like Asking Alexandra and all that kind of like proper kind of emo phase stuff. So he had like dyed black
Yeah,
hair, straightened over the face, painted nails, like the wristbands and stuff like that. And I was like, who is this guy? Like, what's going on? But now he's like, obviously grown out of that, and he's just kind of like, just like he doesn't dress like that anymore. And it's weird because it's an age thing as well.
it is. Yeah, I mean, I remember when I was at like secondary school and college and stuff, it was kind of like I didn't really have any taste or opinion on much. Like I didn't get into music until I ended up at uni. I didn't get into film until I was at uni. It was kind of like you can tell because I just kind of looked like an average Neil Young fan. I just kind of looked really generic.
Yeah.
I just looked like my hair was not like this. My hair used to be like just back like that, and it was like, oh no. But it's I think a lot about music is kind of when I think of Green Day, especially the influence it had on people finding their identity, which I don't think many albums can say that they've managed to help people find what they feel comfortable with, and I think that's incredibly impactful for Green Day. I think regardless of how many albums it sold, I think its legacy will be that it's managed to inspire an entire generation to go out and buy Doc Martens, which I think's
Yeah.
really responsible because they are quite
Some
comfy.
businesses giving them like mental.
Well, I think if I appeal to Doc Martens enough, they'll eventually send me some free shoes.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you what, man, I went on a night out a couple of days ago. I wore the new boots. I hadn't like worn them in or anything, so like brand new out the box on the go, walking around the city, going from bar to bar. I thought, you know what, it's nice and comfy. This, but obviously I was really drunk, so I didn't really pay much attention. Woke up the next day, blood on my feet, just cut open. It's like, oh my
Really?
god. So, yeah, oh yeah. But
Because they're really
that's the
stiff,
price you
aren't
pay
they?
for fashion. They're real, yeah. I mean, like all my mates swear by them. It's like they'll get really comfy. I've had mine 6 years. It's like, yeah, I've had mine for 4 days though. I'm in agony. But
It's still the same.
I think yeah, it's still the same. 6 years on, still cutting my feet open. But no, I
Yeah.
think it's really important. Stuff like Green Day is really important, not just because of their musical quality, but because of the aesthetic they provide. And I kind of get the same feeling for stuff like Yeah Like Now or Pulp back then, where it's they've got such a specific look that people can latch on to and essentially replicate for themselves. Where you think about how imagery with music always helps. Stuff like Johnny Cash for like the black suit. That's like the most obvious example. People don't really give post punk and garage rock enough credit for what they were doing. I always remember like
Yeah.
apart from Johnny, maybe like Real Big Fish and Scar with like the keyboard ties and stuff and the black and white belts. Like that's the
Like,
dark deep end of the spectrum. That's no man's land.
yeah.
But it's nice to see that music can actually have an impact on something that is beyond people saying, "Oh, this is really good," or taking them like 12 years to go, "This is actually really good." Because that was me with Green Day, where it was like, obviously you've heard, American Idiot and Jesus Suburbia, but you've not heard the album material. The album material is really, really good. It's ridiculously good. Obviously, Novocaine we mentioned, but stuff like Are We the Waiting, She's a Rebel, Let a Bomb, just like really strong album material stuff that obviously, because of how popular it is, it's going to be relied on in the rest of their sets forever. That's it. That's Green Day now, which
Yeah.
is, there are worse albums to hang your hat on.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like you think of Queen and Adam Lambert, and what have they got really?
Yeah.
Killer Queen, that'll do.
Questionable.
But yeah, well, I know there's a few Queen albums on this list, and I'm not the biggest Queen fan.
Yeah.
But the ones I'm looking forward to the most are Queen and Oasis, because I cannot stand Oasis, and I really don't care for Queen. And it's like there'll be something like I remember the last time I spoke about Oasis on a public forum, I got absolutely hounded, and one of the people that started criticizing me was my old lecturer from uni. I'm like, all right, steady on, lad.
I mean, I see that on Twitter all the time. Like someone,
Yeah,
it'll just be like quite an innocent tweet, and it'll just be like flies on shit. It's crazy, man.
it's mad. It's to some degree from my perspective through work. It's kind of those are the moments I've got to latch on to. Like the reason I review so many Bob Dylan albums is because I know there's a Bob Dylan forum that always picks it up.
Yeah,
They don't like me for some reason.
quite right.
But that's the beauty of it. And I suppose the beauty of American Idiot is that it's something I didn't think I'd like, and I really liked it. Like to the point where I'd go out and get it on vinyl. Like I'd love to listen to that properly when my hearing is returned.
Yeah,
But it's just such a
stereo.
that'd be beautiful. I'm on bloody. I look like I've got a hearing aid from the 1970s with this stuff on at the moment. It's like these are my really old headphones that I found in a cupboard. But it's like I went into work meeting today, and they're like, "Can you hear us all right?" It's like, "Yeah, I'm deaf in one ear, not both of you." But just the big question now: what's the best track on the album? Easy one, I suppose.
I think, God, it's hard because American Idiot is the shorter, more concise hard hitter, but then Jesus Suburbia is like 6 songs in one.
Yeah,
It's
it's a
pretty
big one.
tricky.
It's I was going to say Jesus of Suburbia because of what it managed to achieve with those. The it's kind of like what Pink Floyd tried to do with Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think Jesus of Suburbia is probably my favorite. It's strange because it's I always when I listen to Jesus of Suburbia, it's obviously like this massive song that has like 6 songs in it, and I've got my favorite parts inside that song, like the song is an album.
Yeah,
It's just weird.
that's
It's
the
really
thing
cool
with
how
those
they've done
kind
it
of
though. And
lists.
the music videos
Yeah.
as well.
Oh yeah. That's the thing with those like long songs, especially something like again to use Pink Floyd as an example, like the opening bars of "Wish You Were Here," where it's like part 1 to 5. It's like I can take or leave parts of that. I think it's an incredible track, but there are rises and falls in it where it's hard to assess the quality of the track itself because it's that long. I think Rush did it on
Yeah,
2112 as well, which is like I get it. I think it's really cool as a technical concept, but if you're just an average like passing by listener, you don't want to sit and listen to something that's like 18 minutes long. But I think Jesus of
exactly.
Suburbia is like
Yeah,
one of those really rare examples where it layers into one another really well, where it's to the point where if you turned off like all your devices, if you weren't looking at like the screen or you weren't listening to the vinyl, you couldn't tell that was one song. It would be separate enough to like
yeah,
bleed into it. It's like the B side of Abbey Road almost, where it's like just starts bleeding into each other. It's like, oh, we're 4 songs in already, brilliant.
yeah. You
It's
got
really
like
impressive.
bloody golden slumbers and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I think
but
it's
yeah,
strange as
I
well
think
because the Jesus of Suburbia, it's like a really long song, and just like you says, it flows into it really well. But by the end of it, you're like, shit, that went really quick.
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah,
it's like that's 2 minutes longer than like Layla by Derek and the Dominoes, but that feels like it's over quicker than Derek and the Dominoes' stuff. Where it's like
yeah, yeah,
I think that's the pace and the flow. That's the quality Green Day always had.
yeah.
Um,
Excitement.
Still have to some degree. I don't know if people really like Father of All that much.
Yeah,
I remember that. I remember that releasing when it was like lockdown and stuff, and it was like nobody had anything to do, so they're like, right, fine, I'll listen to the Green Day album, and it's like,
me as
oh,
well.
like everybody hates. It's, yeah, fair enough. But I suppose that leads us on to the last question: is there an album that needs to replace Green Day's American Idiot on this list? Is there anything else from Green Day that should really replace it?
I'm not sure. From Green Day.
From Green Day or the same genre?
God, I'm not sure.
It's a pretty solid list
It's
entry.
tricky
I'm going to keep it
because
on.
yeah, because Green Day are kind of the top of their kind of
Yeah,
genre, but I mean, God, there are probably a few albums that are quite high contenders, but I don't know if they do the same kind of damage as American Idiot.
yeah. It's I've always struggled with that. It's when I did the Arctic Monkeys one. It was like whatever people say I am, that's what I'm not. Is a fantastic album. It's not the best Arctic Monkeys album, but it's probably the one that's gonna get people into the genre, into the
Yeah,
band. The best example of their range, where it's like I would have said something mental like Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino, which isn't right for the list, but it's right in my mind,
yeah,
and it's
yeah,
so hard to like differentiate that. It's like Green Day's American Idiot's like probably their best work. It's also probably the best one for the list, but what else is there? And I suppose that's the best way to see it. Is like if I'm asking what else there is after American Idiot, then it's clearly done something for me to get interested in that music. Where it's like American Idiot's going to be the hook for that many people. It's kind of like I wouldn't have heard of stuff like the Exploding Hearts if it weren't for American Idiot.
yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, I still listen to some songs that they've released, like I can't remember what one it was. It's a newer album they've got, um, and it's like pretty quite a few years after American Idiot, but I still think it could fit in that.
Is it Demolicious?
Hey, mate, is that the one with the radio that's on fire?
Oh, that's Revolution Radio. Yeah, yeah, I know which one. Yeah, yeah. Okay, Revolution Radio.
I think it was Still Breathing.
Still breathing.
Because it's got the same uh, kind of like aesthetic feel as American Idiot, like as an album vibe. I'm just looking here as well that I didn't even notice, but Green Day have just released a demo off of Nimrod that was unreleased.
Brilliant.
Yeah, that's pretty
To be
nuts.
reviewing that for the weekend. Pick up all the Green Day fans.
Yeah.
Uh, I wonder how much that's actually changed my perception of music and how much I listen to it on the grounds that if I listen to it and review it, I'll get views. Wonder,
Yeah.
wonder what that's going to do.
Just go for it.
Terrible. I think the last time I listened to something that I actually properly wanted to, like I always listen to albums, like I do a couple a day, but it's like the last proper album I was like, I need to listen to that, and I ordered it on vinyl today because I listened to it again. It's like Roland S. Howard's Teenage Snuff Film. Like
Yeah.
that's immediately like 5 stars. It's perfect, and that was like I didn't expect it to have that much of an effect. Where it was like I've got to get this on vinyl, I've got to go and listen to it properly. It was mad. But then just before that, I'd listened to Bananarama's True Confession, so I don't really know where I'm at with my music taste.
Yeah, yes, it's quite a diverse scale you've got there. Yeah, I
But
do
yeah,
this weird thing with bands that when a band will blow up, so when a band blows up, I I just won't let myself get into it because everyone else loves it so much, and I'm like, nah, it's just another one of those bands, and I'll block myself from it, and then once everyone's like it keeps nattering at me because I'll hear it on the radio and stuff like that, and then eventually I'll get really into it and I'll be like, "Whoa, this is the best album ever," and then everyone will be over it, and I'm like, oh, I don't know what I do to myself. It's just pain in the
That's the
arse.
thing. I used to do the exact same thing, and it's it is a pain. But it's kind of like I always thought, well, give it time to settle, let that sort of recency bias pass, and then listen to it. It's like I did the same with Wet Leg, and
Yeah,
everyone was like, "Oh, Wet Leg's amazing, it's real." And then I listened, it's like it is amazing, it isn't real. Would you like to talk about it? No, 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 we've moved on to like PJ Harvey. It's like, all right, cool, I guess.
Right, slow down.
I, exactly that, and it's like obviously I can't do that now that I've got to write about music all the time. Where it was like
Yeah,
1975's album drop. Like, all right, time to listen to that, and then everyone's still talking about it, and I'm ready to move on now. So it's like
yeah, it's like the
let's get the
opposite.
ball rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah, never find a happy medium, but I suppose we've cemented American Idiot's legacy with this. That's at least the most notable.
Exactly.
We've got that.
Timestamp.
Not That's fantastic. We've done it. Do you want to plug your socials and all that? Get your Twitter handles and all your upcoming gigs out on there.
Yeah, for sure, man. What are we doing? Well, when my leg gets better, obviously
Yes.
we're going to be touring in November, part of December. We're going a bunch of Scottish dates and an English date. Our first English date ever in Newcastle, so that'll be fun. In the Head of Steam,
Fantastic.
it's going to make or break
Oh
me.
yes. Head of Steam. I've been absolutely bladdered in a few times, so it's a lovely.
Really, yeah. Oh, we'll have to get you along, man.
Yeah, as long as I got my hearing back.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, crash course. Get it all my life. But yeah, I think we've also got we're playing in Inverness, Glasgow, Aberdeen, Edinburgh, and then we're in Newcastle. And we've just released a new song called Cigarettes, Cigarettes, Cigarettes. Don't know if you could get a more indie name than that. It's actually been quite hard to market that I didn't think about because I put up Facebook ads and then Facebook were like, we cannot allow you to advertise smoking products, and I'm like, God, why did I do that? Oh, it's a pain in the arse, man.
It's all right. I'll stick a link in all the descriptions. I think it's a cracking song, so hopefully people
Oh,
will stop
thanks,
being
man.
dickheads. Oh, man. Yeah, people can find me on the usual places at Ewan Gleadow, EWANGLEADOW on Twitter and all that, and then you can find my writing on Cult Following, Daily Star, Newcastle World, Clapper, Geek Show, and Art Magazine, any volume. I'm on to the podcast, but I'm starting to run out of breath and I'm a bit bored, so I'm going to end the episode here.